Lady Margaret Thornberry noticed something peculiar during her first state dinner at Buckingham Palace in 1987. As the newly appointed Australian ambassador's wife, she had studied royal protocol extensively, memorizing the proper curtsy depth, the acceptable conversation topics, and the complex hierarchy of seating arrangements. But nothing had prepared her for what she witnessed during the formal dinner with Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen sat at the head of the magnificent mahogany table, surrounded by 24 distinguished guests from around the world. The dining room sparkled with crystal chandeliers casting warm light over golden plates and centuries-old silverware. Everything appeared perfectly normal until Lady Margaret observed the Queen's hands. During the soup course, Queen Elizabeth placed her left index finger briefly on the rim of her water glass while engaging in conversation with the French ambassador. Within moments, a footman appeared at her side, though she had made no visible request for service. Later, during the main course, the Queen adjusted her napkin in a specific triangular fold and placed it beside her plate for exactly 3 seconds before returning it to her lap. Almost immediately, Lady Margaret noticed 2 senior staff members exit the dining room through different doors. The most intriguing moment came during dessert. The Queen positioned her dessert spoon perpendicular to her plate's edge, handle pointing directly toward the Brazilian Minister of Finance. She held this position while nodding politely at something the Canadian Prime Minister was saying. Lady Margaret watched as the Brazilian official's face grew noticeably pale, and he excused himself from the table shortly after. These observations might have remained curiosities in Lady Margaret's memory, dismissed as coincidences, if not for a conversation 3 weeks later with Dame Patricia Wells, a veteran member of the Queen's household staff who had served the royal family for over 30 years. "You noticed the table signals, didn't you?" Dame Patricia asked during a private tea meeting. "Most newcomers missed them entirely, but you seemed quite observant during the state dinner." Lady Margaret's curiosity had been burning for weeks. "I did notice some unusual patterns. The Queen seemed to communicate with staff without speaking." Dame Patricia smiled knowingly. The royal table gesture system has existed for centuries, though it's evolved considerably since its origins during the reign of Charles II. What you witnessed was actually a relatively simple evening. During more complex diplomatic situations, the gestures can convey incredibly detailed instructions. The history Dame Patricia revealed was fascinating. The system originated in 1662 when King Charles II faced constant threats of poisoning and needed a way to communicate security concerns to his guards and staff during public meals. The initial gestures were crude but effective. A specific way of holding a wine glass signaled potential danger, while particular napkin placements indicated approval or disapproval of guests. Over the centuries, successive royal households refined and expanded the system. Queen Victoria's court developed over 200 distinct table gestures, each with precise meanings ranging from requests for specific types of service to complex diplomatic communications. The gestures allowed royals to maintain their public composure while privately directing everything from menu changes to the subtle removal of problematic guests. The genius of the system, Dame Patricia explained, lies in its invisibility to untrained observers. Every gesture appears completely natural, a royal simply adjusting their place setting, reaching for their water glass, or folding their napkin. But, to those who understand the code, each movement carries specific instructions. Lady Margaret learned that modern royal gesture protocols are taught to all senior household staff during intensive training periods. New staff members spend months learning to recognize and respond to dozens of different signals. The system operates on multiple levels of complexity, from basic service requests to sophisticated diplomatic communications. The most commonly used gestures involve water glasses and napkins. A finger placed on the rim of a water glass for exactly 2 seconds requests immediate staff attention. The finger's position indicates the type of assistance needed. Index finger signals for general service, middle finger for security concerns, and ring finger for medical attention. Napkin positioning serves as a broader communication tool, with different folds and placements conveying approval levels, timing instructions, and even guest assessments. Utensil positioning represents the most complex category of royal table gestures. The angle of a knife, the placement of a fork, or the direction of a spoon can communicate detailed information about menu preferences, guest management, or security concerns. Dame Patricia revealed that during state dinners, the Queen often uses utensil positioning to provide real-time feedback about diplomatic negotiations, helping her staff adjust protocols and responses accordingly. The Brazilian minister's reaction during Lady Margaret's first state dinner now made perfect sense. The perpendicular dessert spoon had been a diplomatic signal indicating displeasure with the minister's earlier comments about trade agreements. The positioning served as a formal but private warning that his continued presence might become uncomfortable. Royal meals are never just about food, Dame Patricia emphasized. They're carefully orchestrated diplomatic events where every element serves a purpose. The table gestures allow royals to maintain control over these complex situations while appearing completely natural and gracious to their guests. Lady Margaret discovered that different royal family members have developed their own variations within the established system. Prince Philip was known for his particularly direct utensil signals, often using knife angles to express his opinions about guest behavior or conversation topics. Princess Anne developed a sophisticated napkin folding system that could convey detailed instructions about timing and protocol adjustments. The Queen Mother had been especially skilled with bread roll gestures. The way she broke her roll, the size of the pieces, and where she placed them on her plate could communicate complex information about guest relationships and social dynamics. These subtle signals help staff understand family preferences and adjust their service accordingly. Modern technology has added new dimensions to the royal table gesture system. While maintaining traditional protocols, royal households now use the gestures to coordinate with security teams equipped with discrete communication devices. A specific water glass touch might trigger enhanced security monitoring, while particular napkin adjustments can signal staff to prepare for early event conclusions. The training required to master royal table gestures extends far beyond simple memorization. Staff members must develop an acute awareness of timing, context, and subtlety. The same gesture can carry different meanings depending on the course being served, the guests present, or the overall diplomatic climate. Experienced staff learn to read combinations of gestures, interpreting complex messages from sequences of seemingly innocent movements. Lady Margaret spent months studying the system, gradually recognizing patterns during subsequent royal events. She observed how the Queen used table gestures to guide conversation flow, signal staff about guest comfort levels, and even coordinate timing for formal toasts and speeches. The sophistication of the system impressed her more with each observation. One particularly memorable evening involved a dinner with Middle Eastern dignitaries during a sensitive period of international negotiations. Lady Margaret watched as the Queen employed an intricate series of gestures throughout the meal, using combinations of napkin positions, glass touches, and utensil angles to communicate continuously with her staff. The evening proceeded flawlessly, with perfect timing for each course and seamless transitions between formal presentations and casual conversation. The hidden world of royal table gestures revealed itself as an essential component of modern monarchy, allowing ancient traditions to adapt to contemporary diplomatic requirements while maintaining the grace and dignity expected of royal occasions. The ancient dining hall of Windsor Castle witnessed one of the most complex displays of royal table gestures in modern history during the 1994 state visit of President Nelson Mandela. Sir Geoffrey Hampton, then serving as Deputy Master of the Household, later described the evening as a masterclass in diplomatic communication through silent signals. President Mandela's visit carried enormous significance, marking South Africa's return to the Commonwealth after decades of apartheid isolation. The formal state banquet required unprecedented coordination between security services, diplomatic protocol offices, and royal household staff. Traditional verbal communication would have been impossible given the international media presence and the sensitive nature of ongoing diplomatic negotiations. Sir Geoffrey had served the royal household for 15 years, but even his extensive experience couldn't fully prepare him for the evening's complexity. The guest list included representatives from 37 nations, many with complicated relationships requiring delicate management. The Queen needed a way to provide continuous guidance to her staff while maintaining her public role as gracious host. The evening began with what appeared to be a simple gesture during the reception preceding dinner. Queen Elizabeth adjusted her pearl bracelet twice while greeting the Zimbabwean delegation, a signal Sir Geoffrey recognized as an instruction to monitor conversation topics carefully. The royal gesture vocabulary included specific jewelry adjustments for different types of diplomatic situations, and this particular movement indicated potential sensitivity requiring staff attention. As guests moved into the dining hall, the complexity of the evening's gesture requirements became apparent. The Queen's place setting included additional elements beyond standard protocol, an extra water glass positioned slightly behind her primary glass, and a small silver dish containing 3 different types of dinner rolls. To untrained observers, these appeared as mere formal embellishments, but Sir Geoffrey knew they provided the Queen with expanded communication options. During the first course, a delicate salmon mousse, President Mandela engaged Queen Elizabeth in conversation about constitutional monarchy's role in democratic transitions. The topic carried significant diplomatic weight, as several Commonwealth nations were examining their own governmental structures. The Queen needed to express support for democratic principles while maintaining appropriate constitutional neutrality. Sir Geoffrey watched as the Queen employed a sophisticated sequence of table gestures to guide the conversation's direction and ensure appropriate staff responses. She touched the rim of her secondary water glass with her ring finger, a signal for enhanced security monitoring of the conversation. Simultaneously, she adjusted her napkin to create a precise rectangular fold, indicating that the discussion should be allowed to continue without interruption. The most remarkable moment came during the main course. As conversations around the table grew animated, touching on topics ranging from trade agreements to human rights initiatives, the Queen began using her dinner roll as a communication tool. She broke the roll into 4 equal pieces, arranged them in a specific pattern beside her plate, then selected the piece position closest to her left hand. This complex sequence conveyed multiple instructions to her staff regarding media management, protocol adjustments, and timing for the evening's formal presentations. Prince Philip, seated across from his wife, recognized her signals and began employing his own complementary gestures. His approach involved subtle knife angles that provided additional context to the Queen's instructions. When positioned at exactly 45 degrees to his plate's edge, his knife indicated agreement with the Queen's assessments. A perpendicular position suggested alternative approaches might be necessary. The Duke of Edinburgh's gesture vocabulary had developed over decades of supporting the Queen during complex diplomatic events. His signals typically focused on practical considerations, timing adjustments, security concerns, or logistical requirements that might not be immediately apparent to other staff members. During the Mandela dinner, his knife positioning provided crucial real-time feedback about guest reactions and conversation dynamics. Princess Anne, also present at the state banquet, contributed her own specialized knowledge of the gesture system. Her napkin folding techniques had evolved into an art form capable of expressing nuanced diplomatic assessments. During dessert, she created a series of precise folds that communicated her evaluation of various delegates' responses to the evening's discussions. Her signals helped staff understand which relationships might require follow-up attention and which diplomatic connections appeared most promising for future development. The royal family's coordinated use of table gestures during state occasions represents centuries of refined practice. Each member brings unique perspectives and specialized knowledge to the communication system, creating a comprehensive network capable of managing even the most complex diplomatic situations. The Mandela dinner demonstrated how multiple royals can work together through silent signals to orchestrate perfect coordination among dozens of staff members. Sir Geoffrey observed fascinating interactions between the gesture system and modern diplomatic protocols. When the South African delegation raised questions about Commonwealth trade preferences, the Queen used a combination of water glass touches and bread placement to signal staff about appropriate responses and resource allocation. Her gestures ensured that follow-up meetings could be arranged immediately, demonstrating the practical effectiveness of the ancient communication system. The evening's most delicate moment involved discussions of historical grievances and reconciliation processes. Several Commonwealth representatives had experienced difficult relationships during the apartheid era, requiring careful navigation of sensitive emotional terrain. The Queen employed her most sophisticated gesture sequences during these conversations, using combinations of utensil positioning and napkin adjustments to guide staff responses and maintain appropriate diplomatic balance. Advanced practitioners of the royal gesture system can communicate incredibly specific information through seemingly innocent movements. During the Mandela dinner, Sir Geoffrey witnessed the Queen conveying detailed instructions about gift presentation timing, media photograph opportunities, and even specific dietary accommodations for guests with religious or cultural restrictions. The system's versatility allows royals to address practical concerns while maintaining their focus on diplomatic relationship building. The technical precision required for effective royal table gestures becomes apparent during high-stakes events like state banquets. Staff members must recognize signals instantly while continuing their regular duties, responding to royal instructions without drawing attention to the communication system. The Mandela dinner required split-second coordination among 23 different staff members, all guided by the Queen's subtle signals. One particularly impressive sequence occurred during the formal toast presentations. As multiple national anthems were performed and ceremonial gifts exchanged, the Queen used a series of wineglass touches to coordinate timing among musicians, photographers, and protocol officers. Her gestures ensured that each element of the ceremony proceeded with perfect timing, creating a seamless experience for guests while managing numerous behind-the-scenes logistics. The psychological aspects of royal table gestures add another layer of complexity to their effectiveness. Guests often sense the underlying communication without understanding its specific nature, creating an atmosphere of efficient organization and careful attention to detail. This subliminal awareness contributes to the overall success of royal events, as guests feel appropriately honored and carefully attended to throughout their experience. Modern royal gesture systems incorporate elements designed specifically for media management and public relations considerations. The Queen's movements during photographed meals must serve dual purposes, communicating necessary information to staff while presenting appropriate images for public consumption. The Mandela dinner included several moments where gesture timing coordinated perfectly with official photography, creating powerful symbolic images while simultaneously directing complex logistical operations. Training new staff members in royal table gesture recognition requires intensive study and practical experience under expert supervision. Sir Geoffrey described the learning process as similar to mastering a complex musical instrument, requiring both technical knowledge and intuitive understanding of timing and context. Experienced staff members can interpret gesture combinations that might take newcomers months to recognize and understand. The private dining rooms of Clarence House became an unexpected laboratory for royal gesture innovation during the 1990s when Prince Charles began developing specialized signals for environmental and agricultural discussions. His unique contribution to the royal communication system reflected his passionate advocacy for organic farming and sustainable development, topics that required delicate handling during diplomatic conversations with representatives from industrialized nations. Dame Elizabeth Hartwell, Prince Charles's private secretary during this period, documented the evolution of his personalized gesture vocabulary in confidential household records that were later shared with senior royal protocol experts. The prince's innovations demonstrated how traditional royal communication systems could adapt to address contemporary issues while maintaining their fundamental secrecy and effectiveness. Prince Charles's environmental gestures emerged from practical necessity during a 1991 dinner with executives from major chemical companies who were seeking royal endorsement for agricultural expansion projects in Commonwealth nations. The prince needed to express his environmental concerns without creating diplomatic incidents or public relations problems for the monarchy. Traditional royal gestures lack the specificity required for complex environmental discussions. The breakthrough came during dessert when Prince Charles began using his coffee spoon to create precise patterns in his sugar bowl. The seemingly absent-minded stirring actually conveyed detailed information about his assessment of various environmental proposals being discussed around the table. Clockwise stirring indicated general approval, while counterclockwise movements suggested concerns. The number of stirs communicated the intensity of his opinions, and the duration of each stirring session provided timing guidance for staff responses. Dame Elizabeth observed how Prince Charles expanded this sugar bowl system over subsequent months, developing increasingly sophisticated combinations that could address specific environmental topics. Different spoon angles during stirring indicated whether his concerns focused on water quality, soil health, or biodiversity preservation. The depth of the spoon's insertion into the sugar communicated his assessment of proposed project timelines and implementation strategies. The prince's bread and butter approach became legendary among household staff familiar with environmental protocol. During discussions of agricultural policy, Prince Charles would deliberately spread butter on his bread using specific patterns that conveyed his opinions about sustainable farming practices. Smooth, even spreading indicated approval for organic approaches, while rough, uneven patterns suggested concerns about industrial agricultural methods. The complexity of his butter spreading technique could communicate remarkably detailed information. Circular motions indicated support for crop rotation programs, while straight-line spreading suggested preferences for linear planting strategies. The thickness of butter application reflected his assessment of proposed funding levels for environmental initiatives. Staff members learned to read these patterns instantly, providing appropriate follow-up resources and scheduling meetings with environmental experts based on the prince's silent communications. Prince Charles's wine glass protocols added another dimension to royal environmental gesturing. His positioning of wine glasses during conservation discussions could indicate preferences for different types of environmental protection strategies. A glass placed precisely parallel to his plate's edge suggested support for habitat preservation approaches, while diagonal positioning indicated interest in renewable energy alternatives. The most sophisticated aspect of Prince Charles's environmental gesture system involved his coordination with serving staff to create extended communication opportunities. During lengthy discussions of climate policy, he would request specific types of bread or particular butter varieties, choices that appeared as simple dining preferences but actually provided additional gesture vocabulary for complex environmental topics. Dame Elizabeth documented how Prince Charles's innovations influenced other royal family members to develop their own specialized gesture vocabularies. Princess Anne began incorporating equestrian-themed signals into her table communications, using napkin folding patterns that reflected her expertise in horse breeding and rural land management. Her folding techniques could convey detailed information about agricultural sustainability and rural development priorities. The Queen Mother developed her own artistic gesture system, using flower arrangements and decorative elements as communication tools during cultural and historical discussions. Her approach involved repositioning small decorative items on the table to indicate her opinions about museum acquisitions, historical preservation projects, and cultural exchange programs. These movements appeared as aesthetic adjustments but actually provided sophisticated feedback about cultural policy decisions. The integration of specialized royal gesture systems created unprecedented communication capabilities during complex diplomatic events involving multiple policy areas. A single state dinner might require coordination of traditional diplomatic gestures, environmental signals, cultural communications, and security protocols, all operating simultaneously without interfering with each other or creating confusion among staff members. Prince Charles's environmental gesture innovations proved particularly valuable during the 1992 Earth Summit preparations, when he needed to communicate detailed opinions about international environmental agreements while maintaining appropriate diplomatic neutrality. His table signals allowed him to provide continuous guidance to policy advisors without compromising his public role or creating uncomfortable situations for international representatives. The technical precision required for specialized royal gestures becomes apparent during multi-topic diplomatic discussions. Staff members must recognize and respond to different gesture vocabularies depending on conversation topics, guest expertise, and policy contexts. Prince Charles's environmental signals required completely different responses than traditional diplomatic gestures, demanding extensive additional training for household staff. Advanced practitioners of specialized royal gesture systems can seamlessly transition between different communication vocabularies as conversation topics shift during formal meals. Prince Charles became particularly skilled at employing traditional diplomatic gestures for constitutional discussions while simultaneously using environmental signals to address sustainability topics, all within the same meal service. The psychological impact of specialized royal gestures extends beyond their practical communication functions. Guests often develop intuitive awareness of underlying communication patterns, even without understanding specific meanings. This awareness contributes to more focused and productive conversations, as participants sense the royal family's engagement with specific topics and adjust their presentations accordingly. Dame Elizabeth observed how Prince Charles's environmental gesture system influenced the development of contemporary royal communication protocols. Younger royals began incorporating technology-related signals for discussions of digital policy and cybersecurity issues. The gesture vocabulary expanded to include signals for space exploration, genetic research, and artificial intelligence topics that previous generations never needed to address. The evolution of royal gesture systems demonstrates their fundamental adaptability to changing diplomatic and social requirements. While maintaining traditional protocols for established diplomatic functions, the system continues expanding to address contemporary issues requiring royal attention and guidance. Prince Charles's environmental innovations established precedents for ongoing adaptation and specialization. Modern royal gesture training now includes instruction in multiple specialized vocabularies, preparing staff members to recognize and respond to signals covering diverse policy areas. The comprehensive training programs ensure that royal households can effectively support family members with varying interests and expertise areas while maintaining the secrecy and effectiveness that make the gesture systems valuable diplomatic tools. The documentation of specialized royal gesture systems remains highly confidential, with access restricted to senior household staff and protocol experts. Dame Elizabeth's records of Prince Charles's environmental innovations exist in secure archives, available only to staff members responsible for training future generations in the complete royal communication system. Contemporary applications of specialized royal gestures continue expanding as global challenges require increasingly sophisticated diplomatic responses. The system's proven adaptability ensures that royal families can address emerging issues while maintaining their traditional roles and responsibilities in constitutional democracies. The most dramatic implementation of royal table gestures in recent history occurred during the 1997 Hong Kong handover ceremonies, when the Queen needed to navigate incredibly complex diplomatic terrain while maintaining Britain's constitutional position during the territory's transfer to Chinese sovereignty. Sir Anthony Pemberton, the Queen's personal equerry during this period, later described the week-long series of formal events as the ultimate test of the royal gesture system's effectiveness under extreme pressure. The political sensitivity of the Hong Kong handover created unprecedented challenges for royal protocol officers. The Queen needed to honor Britain's historical relationship with Hong Kong while respecting Chinese sovereignty and supporting democratic principles for Hong Kong's future. Traditional diplomatic language proved inadequate for expressing the nuanced positions required during this historically significant transition. Sir Anthony observed how the Queen employed sophisticated table gesture combinations during the farewell banquet aboard the Royal Yacht Britannia, her final official function in Hong Kong waters. The dinner included representatives from Britain, China, Hong Kong's democratic leadership, and various Commonwealth nations, each group requiring different types of diplomatic consideration and acknowledgement. The Queen's place setting for the Britannia dinner incorporated elements specifically designed for the complex communications required during sovereignty transitions. Additional serving pieces provided expanded gesture vocabulary, while special ceremonial utensils allowed for historical and constitutional signals not available during standard diplomatic meals. The arrangement appeared traditionally formal but actually created comprehensive communication capabilities for managing the evening's sensitive dynamics. During the first course, as guests discussed Hong Kong's economic future under Chinese governance, the Queen began employing a sophisticated sequence of napkin adjustments that communicated her assessment of various proposals and her guidance for British diplomatic responses. Her napkin positioning indicated support for Hong Kong's continued participation in international economic systems while acknowledging China's legitimate sovereignty interests. The most complex moment of the evening involved discussions of human rights protections and democratic institutions in post-handover Hong Kong. Chinese representatives expressed confidence in their ability to maintain Hong Kong's special characteristics, while British officials sought assurances about specific protective measures. The Queen needed to support democratic principles without appearing to challenge Chinese sovereignty or interfere in internal Chinese affairs. Sir Anthony watched as the Queen employed her most sophisticated water glass protocols during these discussions. She positioned her glasses in configurations that provided detailed guidance to British diplomats about appropriate responses and negotiating positions. The glass arrangements indicated which topics could be pursued more assertively and which required delicate diplomatic restraint. The Queen's bread service selections during the main course created additional communication opportunities for addressing Hong Kong's constitutional future. Her choices of different bread types and her methods of consuming them conveyed her opinions about proposed governance structures and institutional arrangements. These signals helped British negotiators understand royal perspectives on various constitutional options being discussed. Prince Philip's participation in the Britannia dinner added crucial practical dimensions to the evening's gesture communications. His utensil positioning provided real-time assessment of Chinese delegate responses and British negotiating effectiveness. The Duke's signals helped staff understand which diplomatic approaches were proving successful and which might require adjustment or abandonment. The coordination between the Queen and Prince Philip during complex sovereignty discussions demonstrated the advanced capabilities of royal gesture systems when employed by experienced practitioners. Their combined signals could communicate detailed strategic assessments while maintaining appropriate diplomatic courtesy toward all parties involved in the negotiations. Princess Anne's presence at the farewell dinner provided additional specialized knowledge about Commonwealth relationships and democratic institutions. Her gesture contributions focused on assessing the responses of various Commonwealth representatives to the handover arrangements and evaluating potential impacts on broader Commonwealth democratic principles. The royal family's coordinated gesture communications during the Hong Kong handover events influenced British diplomatic strategy throughout the transition period. Their table signals provided continuous feedback about negotiating positions, Chinese intentions, and Hong Kong democratic leadership concerns, information that proved crucial for final agreement negotiations. Sir Anthony documented how the Queen's gesture system adapted to address the unique challenges of sovereignty transitions, developing specialized signals for constitutional transfers that hadn't been required since India's independence 50 years earlier. These adaptations demonstrated the system's continuing evolution to meet contemporary diplomatic requirements. The technical complexity of Hong Kong handover gestures required unprecedented coordination among royal household staff, British diplomatic services, and Commonwealth protocol offices. The Queen's table signals needed interpretation by experts familiar with constitutional law, Chinese diplomatic traditions, and Commonwealth governance principles, creating multi-layered communication requirements. The psychological dimensions of royal gestures during sovereignty transitions extend far beyond their practical communication functions. The Queen's confident employment of established gesture protocols during the emotionally charged handover events provided reassurance to British negotiators and Hong Kong representatives about institutional continuity and constitutional principles. Modern applications of royal gesture systems for constitutional transitions continue influencing diplomatic protocols for other sovereignty changes and independence processes. The Hong Kong precedents established frameworks for royal communications during similar constitutional developments in other Commonwealth territories and democratic transitions worldwide. The Queen's wine selection protocols during the Britannia dinner created memorable symbolic moments that reinforced broader diplomatic messages about British-Chinese relationships and Hong Kong's future. Her toast gestures indicated appropriate levels of ceremony and formality for different aspects of the handover arrangements while maintaining constitutional propriety. Sir Anthony observed how media coverage of the farewell dinner captured several of the Queen's gesture sequences, creating lasting historical records of royal communication methods during significant constitutional events. The photographs provide valuable documentation for future royal protocol training and constitutional transition planning. The emotional complexity of the Hong Kong handover required royal gestures that could express genuine respect for Hong Kong's democratic aspirations while acknowledging political realities of Chinese sovereignty. The Queen's table signals during private conversations with Hong Kong democratic leaders provided personal encouragement while maintaining appropriate constitutional boundaries. Advanced royal gesture applications during constitutional transitions require understanding of international law, democratic theory, and sovereignty principles that extend far beyond traditional diplomatic protocol. The Hong Kong handover demonstrated how royal communication systems can address complex legal and political questions through sophisticated symbolic language. The long-term influence of royal gesture innovations during the Hong Kong handover continues shaping contemporary approaches to constitutional change and democratic transitions. The precedents established during 1997 provide frameworks for addressing similar challenges in other constitutional monarchies and Commonwealth nations experiencing political transitions. Training programs for royal household staff now include specialized instruction in constitutional transition protocols, ensuring that future sovereignty changes can be managed with appropriate gesture communications. The Hong Kong precedents established comprehensive training materials for addressing similar diplomatic challenges in other constitutional contexts. Contemporary applications of constitutional transition gestures extend beyond Commonwealth territories to include royal involvement in international democratic development programs and sovereignty dispute mediation efforts. The proven effectiveness of royal gesture systems during complex constitutional changes provides valuable diplomatic tools for addressing ongoing global governance challenges. The evolution of royal table gestures entered a new era during the early 21st century as younger royals began incorporating technology-enhanced communication methods while maintaining traditional protocols. Lady Sarah Pemberton-Jones, who served as Digital Communications Coordinator for the royal household from 2003 to 2015, documented how Prince William and Prince Harry developed innovative approaches that bridged centuries-old gesture traditions with contemporary diplomatic requirements. The transformation began during Prince William's university years when he started attending formal dinners that included international students and visiting dignitaries. Traditional royal gesture vocabularies lacked appropriate signals for discussions of global terrorism, cybersecurity, and environmental technology that dominated contemporary political conversations. The prince needed communication methods that could address 21st century issues while preserving the discretion and effectiveness of historical royal protocols. Prince William's breakthrough innovation involved incorporating subtle smartphone positioning into his table gesture repertoire. During formal meals, his placement of his mobile device beside his water glass created additional communication opportunities without violating traditional dining etiquette. The phone's angle relative to his plate could indicate the urgency of various topics being discussed, while its proximity to different utensils provided context about appropriate follow-up actions. Lady Sarah observed how Prince William developed sophisticated coordination between traditional napkin gestures and modern device positioning during international summits and diplomatic receptions. His napkin folding patterns could indicate broad topic categories, while his smartphone orientation provided specific details about technological or security considerations requiring staff attention. The most remarkable aspect of Prince William's technological integration was its invisibility to casual observers. His device positioning appeared as normal millennial behavior, a young person simply keeping their phone nearby during meals. But, trained staff recognized complex communication patterns that could convey detailed information about cybersecurity threats, social media management requirements, or technological diplomatic initiatives. Prince Harry contributed his own innovations to modernized royal gesture systems, focusing on humanitarian and military applications that reflected his service experience and charitable interests. His approach involved using traditional utensil positioning to communicate detailed assessments of military situations, veteran support programs, and humanitarian crisis responses discussed during formal diplomatic events. The coordination between the two princes during joint appearances created unprecedented communication capabilities for addressing complex contemporary challenges. Their combined traditional and technological gesture systems could simultaneously manage multiple policy areas while maintaining appropriate royal discretion and diplomatic effectiveness. Lady Sarah documented how the Queen recognized the value of her grandson's innovations and began incorporating selected technological elements into her own gesture vocabulary. Her adaptation demonstrated the royal family's ability to evolve their communication systems while preserving essential traditional elements that had proven effective for centuries. The integration of technological gestures required extensive additional training for royal household staff, who needed to understand both historical protocols and contemporary communication methods. New staff members learned to interpret traditional water glass signals and napkin positions alongside smartphone angles and device placement patterns, creating comprehensive multi-layered communication capabilities. Modern royal gesture systems now operate on three distinct levels: traditional historical protocols for established diplomatic functions, specialized contemporary signals for current policy issues, and technological enhancements for security and communication coordination. This three-tier structure provides unprecedented flexibility for addressing diverse diplomatic situations and policy requirements. The practical applications of modernized royal gesture systems became apparent during the 2011 royal wedding celebrations, when Prince William needed to coordinate with security services while maintaining his ceremonial role during the elaborate public festivities. His technological gesture methods allowed continuous communication with protection officers without disrupting the traditional pageantry or creating visible security concerns. Prince Harry's deployment to Afghanistan provided real-world testing for military applications of royal gesture innovations. His ability to communicate detailed tactical and humanitarian assessments during formal military briefings demonstrated the practical effectiveness of adapted royal protocols in contemporary conflict situations. The psychological impact of technologically enhanced royal gestures extends beyond their communication functions to influence public perceptions of royal modernization and contemporary relevance. Younger royals' seamless integration of traditional protocols with modern technology demonstrates institutional adaptability while preserving historical continuity. Lady Sarah observed how international diplomatic services began studying royal gesture innovations for potential applications in their own communication systems. The proven effectiveness of combining traditional discretion with technological enhancement influenced diplomatic protocol development in various constitutional monarchies and democratic governments worldwide. Contemporary applications of royal gesture systems now include coordination with social media management teams, cybersecurity specialists, and digital communications experts who monitor online responses to royal activities and provide real-time guidance for public relations considerations during formal events. The training requirements for modern royal gesture systems have expanded significantly beyond traditional household staff instruction to include technology specialists, security coordinators, and digital communications experts who must understand both historical protocols and contemporary applications for effective coordination. Advanced practitioners of modernized royal gesture systems can seamlessly coordinate traditional diplomatic communications with technological security measures and digital media management, creating comprehensive coordination capabilities that address all aspects of contemporary royal public engagement. The documentation of technological royal gesture innovations remains highly classified, with access restricted to senior security personnel and protocol specialists who require complete understanding of both traditional and contemporary communication methods for effective royal protection and support. Future development of royal gesture systems continues incorporating emerging technologies while preserving essential traditional elements that provide diplomatic effectiveness and institutional continuity. Research programs examine applications of artificial intelligence, biometric monitoring, and advanced communication technologies for potential integration into royal protocol systems. The global influence of royal gesture innovations extends beyond Commonwealth nations to include studies by various international diplomatic services examining applications for their own communication requirements during sensitive negotiations and formal state functions. Training programs for next-generation royal household staff now include comprehensive instruction in historical protocols, contemporary policy applications, and technological integration methods, ensuring continued effectiveness and evolution of royal communication systems. The legacy of centuries-old royal table gesture systems continues thriving through constant adaptation and innovation, proving that ancient diplomatic tools can successfully evolve to address contemporary challenges while maintaining their fundamental effectiveness and discretion. Lady Sarah's final assessment emphasized how royal gesture systems exemplify successful institutional evolution, demonstrating that traditional monarchic institutions can embrace necessary changes while preserving essential characteristics that provide value and effectiveness in modern democratic societies. Contemporary royal gesture systems represent the culmination of 4 centuries of development, combining historical wisdom with innovative adaptation to create sophisticated communication capabilities that continue serving essential diplomatic and constitutional functions in an increasingly complex global political environment.